Welcome back, guys. So today I'm going to do a Berserker weapon guide for everyone. Before the video starts, make sure you like and subscribe, and we're almost hit 500 subscribers. We are only 6 subscribers up to 500 subscribers, so make sure you subscribe right now. Please, I'm begging you, just subscribe. One button will save my life. Okay, so let's start the video right now. Okay, so we're gonna start at early game. So the first weapon I'll be talking about is the Aspect of the End, and this weapon gives 100 damage and 100 strength. It has the ability to teleport 8 blocks away, and it has no cooldown of the ability. And this weapon is like when you just started dungeons and you can use it. This weapon only costs you 200k coins to buy it, and it's pretty easy to get, or you can just craft it. And as you can see, I can teleport 8 blocks away, yes. And that's how it works, yeah. The next weapon I'll be talking about is the Radar Axe. This weapon, well, it used to be on Iron Man users, but when it is maxed out, it's an extremely good item. It gives 80 damage and around like 150 strength when Wood Collection is maxed. And it gives some decent crit damage. This weapon is pretty good for early game players too. Well, for the next weapon I'll be talking about is extremely underrated, but also requires some fishing experience and level. And this weapon is one of the best DPS weapon if you're a Berserker. And nobody knows it, and it has no dungeon or catacomb requirements. And the weapon I was talking about is the Phantom Rod. This weapon can only be dropped from Phantom Fishers in the Spooky Festival, but you can buy it at the auction house for around 1 million coins, and it deals a ton of damage per second. It is even deals nearly the same damage as the Juju Sharp without duplex if it is maxed and you have enough catacomb level. But since this weapon is so underrated, nobody knows it, so it is one of the best early game weapons in the entire game. So let's fly to here, and it does double damage to sea creatures like Guardians, so it is extremely useful in floor free dungeons and master mode free dungeons too, if you like to use a Phantom Rod in master mode floor free. Okay, now we're at mid-game weapons right now, and yeah, the first weapon I'll be talking about is the Flower of Truth. This weapon has a floor 6 completion requirement, but the strength it gives is a lot. It can do a lot of damage if you include damage per second, since it has the ability to right click and throw the flower and to hit 3 mobs and every time you use the ability. The second weapon I'll be talking about is also the Phantom Rod, but this time with 5 stars and Withered Reforge. Well, this weapon is extremely OP when with the Withered Reforge. Just like I talked before, this weapon actually deals a lot of DPS, and it hooks enemies and can knock back them and deals tons of damage, and you just need to spam left click and do insane damage. So I did 40k with an clean one, so I want to test out how much I do. I do 130k, around 110k with DPS, yes, and it's pretty good. And you can see the Inferno rings. Don't ask me why I put Inferno into the rod, but whatever. This rod is still pretty good at mid game. So what is better than the Phantom Rod is the Juju Sharp for DPS. Speaking of DPS, this is not a Berserker weapon, but it is extremely good for clearing. But sadly, it has a requirement for Enderman Slayer 5, which is everyone's problem because they don't have Enderman Slayer 5s. So this weapon is one of the best weapons in the entire mid game, but at the same time it has Enderman Slayer 5 requirement, but it's still really good for DPS. It's better than the Phantom Rod, but if you don't have Enderman Slayer 5, you can just go for the Phantom Rod instead, and with duplex enchantments, it can do insane DPS when you hit a boss or something, and it's extremely good for clearing. Unlike Phantom Roll, it's better at clearing. Okay, so we're moving at late game weapons, and the first weapon I'll be talking about is the Giant Sword. This weapon has a floor 6 completion requirement, and it has the ability to Giant Slam to deal a decent damage, and the damage of the base damage of this weapon is 500. So it's pretty decent and good if you're late game. And the price of this weapon is 200 million, which took a lot of money to buy it, but you can open it at floor 6 for 25 million if you're lucky enough. If you're lucky enough, you can open it for 25 mil. But let's move on to the next weapon, what I was talking about, and the weapon is the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie has a floor 7 completion requirement, but with 3 scrolls dropped, Implosion, Shadow Warp, and Wither Shield, these 3 scrolls, and applied to the Valkyrie, it's nearly the best weapon in the entire game for Berserkers. But since this weapon is extremely expensive, so rarely people use a Giant Sword instead, and this weapon gives ferocity, intelligence, crit damage, strength, and the ferocity moment is the best thing that it has on the Valkyrie, since it strikes multiple times, and it's pretty good, and it has the ability to deal 50% damage to withers, which is extremely good for floor 7, and it increases a lot of damage and strength for your catacomb level. And yeah, the Valkyrie costs at least 700 million coins, or you can just craft it for 690 million coins if you drop the Necron's handle. But the Valkyrie is still a pretty good weapon if you're looking for ferocity. Before I release the best weapon, here are some honorable mentions. The first weapon is the Giant Cleaver. This weapon has a Catacomb 28 requirement, but it's at least better than the Flower of Truth and debatable with the Livid Dagger. Okay, the second weapon I'll be talking about is the Diamond Axe. I mean, it's not a diamond axe, but it is a diamond axe, which is also known as the Axe of the Shredded. Well, the Axe of the Shredded is one of the best sword swapping weapon in the entire game. Yes, it's extremely good for sword swapping. So it has quite good damage, and it's good for mid to end game. And yeah, with the Giant Sword and the Valkyrie, you can sword swap it and deals insane damage, but it has a Zombie Slayer level 80 requirement, and it has some Catacomb requirements too, but it multiplies a lot of damage when you use the ability to sword swap. Up to 16. You can see the damage is extremely high. Multiply 16. So you can imagine the damage is extremely OP, and this weapon is also pretty good when sword swapping another weapon like Giant Sword, Valkyrie, or the Dark Claymore. And speaking of Dark Claymore, this is the best weapon in the entire game. It's the Dark Claymore, which has a Master Mode floor 7 requirement. This weapon is the best weapon in the entire game, even better than the Valkyrie if you don't include ferocity. But this weapon gives tons of damage, better than Giant Sword, and it's like the best Berserker weapon in the entire game. No other sword is better than the Dark Claymore, but sadly it has a Master Mode Catacomb floor 7 requirement, and it's like for end game, and it can use for Berserker or left click mage, which is the best weapon. If your best melee weapon, yes. Make sure to like and subscribe, and drop a like. Please drop a like and make sure to subscribe. And this is the end of the video. Hope you liked the video and it helps you. And this is all. Bye.